Greetings, cinephiles. Are you looking for a movie analysis podcast that stands above the rest? Then look no further than Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters.
We analyze good movies, we analyze bad movies, and yes, we also analyze the in-betweens of the world of cinema.
So if you like what you hear, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
And yes, my friends, we are 420 friendly. So when you listen to us, smoke it if you've got it. And now, here's a new episode of Collateral Gaming. The show starts right now.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm Dan Rockwood.
And this is Collateral Gaming. Welcome to Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are podcasting straight from somewhere in Houston, Texas. And yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast. So whatever you have, smoke it if you've got it. And welcome to part 2, I should say welcome back, of our Metroid Prime 4 review. Joining me is Dan. How's it going, man?
It is going great. I'm excited to get into this. When we recorded part 1, both you and I were still playing through the game. And so now we're both finished.
Yeah.
And we're excited to get into it. Or I may have finished when we record part 1 now that I think of it. You know what? I'll have to go back and re-listen because I am forgetting. But
you were close, I believe.
Now.
I think you were kind of just doing like your last bit of item collection.
That's right.
Yeah. So I have 100% completed this game now, so I can give my full thoughts on it. I do intend to go back and do another playthrough. In fact, I even kind of feel like doing it now. I have so much on the backlog now that I'm like, okay, let me play some other things. But yeah, now I've actually finally gotten to complete the story. I did 100% it. I got 100% items and 100% scans, and I did it in less than 20 hours. I don't know if I should consider that impressive or if that speaks to some of my issues with this game.
I think that's impressive. Look, people were posting their complete times, 100% everything, like 12 hours, 13 hours. I'm pretty sure I easily put over 30 into this game, and I didn't 100% it. So
wow.
I don't know what that says about me and the way I play and the judgment that I receive from pro gamers out there.
There's no wrong way to play. It's kind of just how you approach it.
Yeah, and I just had fun. I mean, I spent my time just, going room to room, and I would see like cool scenery or something. And you know what? I'm not good at puzzles either, so that's part of it. Is it took me however long it takes the average person to work out a puzzle, you can probably double that for me. So that's where a lot of that time comes in. But that is, I mean, let's get the bad out of the way first, I guess.
Sure.
And that's that a big complaint is that this game has a lot of unnecessary time padding to it, whether that's going back and forth across the desert multiple times, collecting all of the green energy, having to go and talk with Miles McKenzie whenever you get an upgrade instead of the upgrade just becoming immediately available. Honestly, that stuff didn't bother me that much. I get the criticism, didn't really take away from my playthrough though of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of more the same as you. I do feel that it's been artificially padded a little bit, but at the end of the day, I completed the game in 17 hours, so it's not by that much. I mean, I am kind of disappointed by how short the game is, actually. They could have honestly stretched some things out for me, and I would have been okay with it. Yeah. But I did start to feel it like it's like, okay, every time I get a chip, now I got to go all the way back through Fury Green. But part of that is because I didn't realize until like the third time I went through Fury Green that you can use the cargo launcher to fast travel. I was backtracking through the area every single time. I thought the cargo launcher thing was like a one and done thing to get you out into Soul Valley. I didn't think you could continue to use until I noticed that there were 2 of them. And I was like, oh, so these are kind of meant to like go back between each other. Oh, okay. So that helps with that. I will say one of the big complaints I see is that people say that they, not a big fan of the big open desert hub area, and it is pretty empty and there's not a lot to do with it. But I didn't feel that I was spending too much time tracking down those green crystals. In fact, most of them I actually came across organically, just going from place to place. And I mean, I'd go out of my way whenever I saw one on the map because I knew I was going to need to collect those. I actually came across a surprising number of them, and I actually went over 100% of them before I realized it. I thought because there were still green crystals in the desert that, I'd gotten all, I still had a lot to go. But no, the number that are required to progress through the main story and even to get the legacy suit, which I think unlocks the true ending, but not the secret ending. I think even to do that, I mean, yeah, I was surprised. I'd already collected all of them, and I was like, okay, so it's not too bad. To unlock, I know like all of like the extras, like there's like secret galleries and stuff. There is you do have to collect essentially like 200%. So you fill up the green meter and then you fill it up again with blue, right? I got to a point where I'd scoured the entire desert and had gotten every green crystal. I'd bombed all the rocks and everything. I went back into every shrine area. I went back into different regions, and I couldn't find the rest of the green crystals. So I gave up on it at that point. But
yeah, it's definitely one of those quests that's not one of the most engaging or interesting, I think. And we covered this in part 1, I'm pretty sure, that it's just, as far as gameplay mechanics go, it was not something I found particularly interesting. And it existed... it's like a chicken and egg situation. It's like, did the desert exist first and they needed to fill it with stuff to do, so they had this green energy quest, or did they have the green energy quest and they need to figure out where to put it in? It brings me back to, and I believe, don't quote me on this 100%, but I believe when Ocarina of Time was being developed, they developed Epona first, and then we're like, well, now we need a big world you can ride the horse around, so let's make Hyrule Field. I believe the horse came first, and then they built the field around her, and I'm just wondering, what order did this come? Like, did they get the idea for Viola first and then did that? Or there are just a lot of questions I'm wondering if we're ever going to get answered based on, the development, how long this took, a lot of the critical reception that this game has received, and Nintendo just in general being pretty tight-lipped about their developments. I don't all that often hear Nintendo developers go on interviews and podcasts, with the exception of like, Miyamoto will do interviews and stuff like that. But you usually get behind the scenes of their older games. I don't frequently hear them, tearing down the thought process behind their brand new titles. So I'm curious what we're going to get from Retro Studios, if anything, about Metroid Prime 4.
I think they're pretty tight-lipped about anything that is a current product that they're selling. But I will say this, we do have some insight into where they were going with this. Cause like I mentioned, I mean, that's something that came across my mind too, did the open big desert area come because they wanted to put the bike in, or, did they put the bike in to traverse the desert? Well, here's something. I think this game was intended as a more open world game. And that is something that I've actually said in some of my criticisms about it online is, I do feel like if this game was gonna do the open world thing, I think they really should have doubled down on it. And I, as a Metroid player, would actually be far more receptive to that than a lot of other players would be, But there's a line in the game where Miles McKenzie says something like, it essentially alludes to, I'm not going crazy because I saw some other discourse about this online, but I'm not going crazy. There's a line that seems to suggest that you can go to any of the 3 objective areas in any order. And they basically give you the objective markers for the Ice Belt, Flare Pool, and the Great Mines. You have to progress through those in a certain order. But for a moment, I thought that I would get to do those in any order. And I was receptive to that, even if the areas themselves were linear, like present them to me in open format, like I'm here for it. So my thought process is that they were intending to dive deeper into the open world aspects, and so that's where the desert started. So I think it did start as a desert. It started as an open area, and I think they added the bike. They added the Viola as a means to transport across. But I mean, it's actually fun. I really don't. I'm sitting here discussing some of my gripes about my game as far as maybe my expectations were set or whatnot, or comparing it to other modern releases. But in terms of like my personal experience, I mean, I did enjoy my time in the desert. I thought it was fun. I did feel like the green crystals, while not being particularly engaging, was at least not very obtrusive, because it was really just adding to. There's that like kind of that satisfying crunch as you go through them while you're drifting through the desert. I loved turning on the radio, though I unlocked with the $30 amiibo, and just combing through the desert on the bike and just having fun with that. I thought that was cool. I know Zach had mentioned that he didn't like the combat on the bike. I thought the combat on the bike was fine. A little awkward at times because you got to position yourself right to hit the targets, but it auto seeks them, so it's not that bad. There is a couple of boss fights in the game that are on the bike that are really cool and dynamic.
Yeah, they could have done more with the bike. I think I'm with Zach that the combat I wasn't super into. But a lot of it was just like locking on to enemies, and there wasn't a big diversity of enemies in the desert, and most of them you could just get away from without really engaging. And it's also funny, this game came out at a time where and this is a good example of how like other video games can rewrite your brain, because I was in the middle of playing Ghost of Yotei when this came out. So when I was riding through the desert and a flock of like flying enemies appeared overhead and were like, they looked like they were leading me somewhere, I was like, oh, there's a secret over here. I have to follow them. So I followed them for a little while, and then they started attacking me, and I was like, oh God, oh no, I've made a huge mistake. I thought you were friends.
That's amazing. I love that. That's funny. Yeah, I honestly, I felt like the bike combat, I mean, yeah, they could have expanded on it more. The big thing for me is that I see how much attention and detail goes into some games. Like I recently played the game trial for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Oh my God. So when I see a game that like I've been waiting 18 years for, I'm like, maybe my expectations aren't too high when I expect a little bit more from it.
Yeah.
But in terms of what we got, it is still very fun. I did still enjoy it. I was hooked and I kept wanting to play it. And the bike stuff in particular is cool. I wish they did more with it. I wish, they really kind of went full down onto it. I mean, if we had to wait just a couple more years, I mean, maybe we should have. I don't know. But yeah, like I mentioned, we even do get some like boss battles and stuff. I think that's where it's at its best. I mean, when you fight Fenaros and the flare pool, that's a pretty badass fight, and I think it's not too difficult because it's kind of a small arena, and you can kind of just you've got him targeted, and so it's not too difficult to just kind of. Well, you don't have him targeted, but the camera follows him or whatever, and it's not too hard to just kind of get a lock on the little weak points as they come up, and then the battle transitions to a fight with the cannon. I think that was the first boss fight I actually started to struggle with and had to redo a few times.
Yeah, I definitely had to do that one a few times. I was trying to play like late at night in handheld mode in bed, and I was having just all kinds of struggles with it, and I finally had to put it down because what I had wanted to do was detach the Joy-Cons and use the motion aiming, because there's some pretty specific like more precision aiming that you need to do. So I was like, let's just do this with that. So I went to sleep. I woke up early the next day. I docked it and brought it up on my TV with my Joy-Cons, and I was like, I am finishing this battle before I start work today. So it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I am doing this battle, and I'm getting in, and I was finally able to defeat him and kind of clear that section of the game. And that was such a fun boss battle. I feel like the enemy design and the boss battles are a really big strong point in Metroid Prime 4. And the level design as well, for that matter. I mean, there are not that many levels, and Ash, you mentioned that you can, they made you think that you could do them in any order, but then there was a very particular order you had to do them in. Yeah. And again, talk about padding time. You have to go to one area to get a power-up to access another area, which then allows you to go back further in that original area you were in. Like, it bounces you back and forth quite a bit.
That is expected from a Metroidvania, though, and honestly, I feel like they could have dug a little bit deeper into that. I feel like there almost wasn't enough backtracking beyond just the, let's go to base camp and do the same thing. More of, let me take an item from this area and go through and explore a whole different, area here. There wasn't as much of that, and it did feel a little bit more repetitive when they did backtrack, because it was like, okay, here's maybe one room that was walled off that you couldn't access before. But, but as far as like the level design goes, it was fun. I mean, extremely linear, and as Zach mentioned, you don't really get lost in the world as much. In fact, I feel like anytime the game, made me kind of almost struggle, it insisted on holding my hand. So that's kind of a criticism I have. But at least as far as like the path that's laid out for you, it is very well polished and it's fun. I have heard that this game is quite a bit more difficult when playing without gyro controls, with just pure dual analog or in handheld mode. I mostly played this in mouse mode. I did a little bit with handheld, but usually I had the gyro controls unless I was in a vehicle or something. Those gyro controls or the mouse controls, whatever you're going with, I mean, those are, I think, kind of necessary for hitting some of those precision shots. I've heard that the dual analog just doesn't quite get that level of precision. This is the kind of game where that matters. But again, I played mostly with mouse controls, so I actually it was not too difficult of a challenge for me. I actually kind of wish I could have selected hard from the beginning, because that mode is much more difficult, and it also doesn't refill your ammo at save stations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate all the different control schemes, and you'll have to go into a little bit about what mouse mode was like for you. I think I tried it once, and I was like, this isn't really for me. The Joy-Cons feel a little too awkward there, so I mostly did the dual stick, just like kind of analog in that way. But there's a lot of different aspects of the game that I think were enjoyable, and being able to have the different control schemes. The fact that they had a performance and quality mode, this is not something that a lot of Nintendo games in the past have given you the option to do. So I think that we're getting a new generation of developers, and of course this is retro, so it's a little different, but I think in core Nintendo as well, they're leaning much more into like, we need to be competitive, graphically and performance-wise, and that's why the Switch 2, I think, it feels like a device. It feels like a advanced piece of hardware in the way that the Switch 1 feels much more toyetic than what you get with the Switch 2. And so it's, I like that. I'm in my 30s. Like, I want a device that's capable of that. I do see a future, and maybe I could be wrong, but I don't think as many, young kids are going to be getting like Switch 2 consoles for Christmas or their birthdays or anything. They'll probably make some kind of Switch 2 Lite eventually, and I think that might be more that speed. But for now, it's there's a big difference between handing a 4-year-old, a $200 Switch Lite versus your $500 Switch 2. Yeah. Like, the optics of it are just a little different for sure.
That's true. But I mean, yeah, this game, I think, is definitely going to be used as kind of a benchmark. And what's crazy is to hear people say that this is PS2 graphics, because
it's absurd.
I don't even know what you're smoking if you say that, because this game looks phenomenal to me. Yeah. I actually recommend performance mode, because, fun fact, apparently this game does apparently it only actually runs Samus herself in the UI in 4K, I think, but everything else is 1440p. But if you play in 1080p with 120 frames per second, I mean, that is very consistent. I didn't see any like noticeable frame drops. It really enables for that extra precision while aiming with either the gyro controls or mouse controls. And yeah, I think the fact that this game could look and perform as well as it did is mostly due to the fact that I think this was developed as a Switch 1 game. So we're really getting to see like the full potential of the Switch 2, and taking games that were optimized for that hardware and, realizing them to their fullest potential, maxing out the resolution and the frame rate. But yeah, I mean, this game, it looks really good. It's a very polished experience. I don't think we actually talked about the music, but the music is... I can say, if nothing else, Retro Studios delivered on that front. It is music that is from a Metroid Prime game. I mean, that title screen, I have to sit there for a few minutes and just listen to it. It's so good. Every single one of the tracks is like, nope, this is a Metroid Prime theme.
Yeah, the music is so good and brings you in, and you got to experience more with that viola radio in the desert, because I did not buy the amiibo so far. I have like 70 amiibo in my collection, but they've just gotten a little too expensive at this point. I'm hoping that they'll come down in price on a sale. I was able to get the Tears of the Kingdom Guardians for $10 each at Best Buy eventually, when those were going for, I think, $30 each when they came out. out. So I really hope the Metroid ones come down because I would love to collect them. They're really cool amiibo figures. They're just a little too expensive for me right now.
That's fair, but they are cool figures. I mean, like I mentioned, I like the Samus one. I love the Viola suit. So the Samus and Viola one, I think is really good. And I want to go back and mention how much I like that suit. It's a really good looking suit. I love the red color. I love the design of it. I did not care for the Legacy suit.
I did not.
It insists upon itself.
Yeah, I did not mind the Legacy suit. I thought it, I thought it looked cool, but I think you're right that Samus's design in the beginning was so well done that I think it was hard to top that. It was also, I was expecting multiple suit iterations over the course of the game. I feel like the original Metroid Prime did that, where every time you got a power up to explore a new area, you were changing the look and the colorization and everything. We didn't really get that much in Metroid Prime 4. It's just kind of your Viola suit and then your Legacy suit toward the end of the game.
Well, to be fair, I think most Metroid games have 3 suits. So you start, you've got the Varia suit, you've got the Viola suit. They do the Viola IC suit, which kind of which allows you to use the Viola over lava. And but as I mentioned in part 1, I don't think that actually has any noticeable like visual differences in the actual suit, and I kind of expected it to at least change the coloring or add some flourishes like the PED suit did or the Hazard Shield did. It kind of just looks exactly the same to me. I haven't seen any differences, but I haven't like looked at them side by side. And then you get the Legacy. Prime actually had quite a bit more suits, and I think that maybe might be one of the reasons why that game is so highly regarded. But the Legacy suit, it's not even something that you have to get. It's a reward for getting, I think, over the 100% mark of green crystals that are required to get the memory fruit. I think the Legacy suit is just a little bit more than that or something. So it's an optional upgrade, or at least you can complete the game without getting it. But I don't think you get. Well, I think you only get the true ending if you got the memory fruit and the suit. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's an optional suit, and it comes with an upgrade that is kind of useless. I mean, I used it a couple times. It consumes 35 missile ammo to generate a temporary shield, which if you have enemies that are coming at you, it'll insta-kill them on contact, which is cool. But it just doesn't last long, and by that point in the game, you've unlocked the most powerful weaponry, like the Super Thunder Shot, which is really the only thing you should be using at that point is the Super Thunder Shot.
I like that you do get those upgrades with those shrines in Soul Valley, and to the point where those could be optional. Like they're not really forcing you have to go to do that. So you could go into the final battle of this game not as well equipped as you could be otherwise, but that made it worth it for me to do a little bit more exploration, do those shrines. I do wish we got more of them. And this isn't really a criticism for Metroid Prime 4, but really just Metroid in general. I wish there was a larger selection of upgrades to receive, because I would get really excited to find something new, but then it would be like a missile expansion. And that's great. I love having more missiles, but it would have been cool if there was just a little bit more in my rotation, in my arsenal, that I could have, spent more time kind of upgrading these different things. And just getting, making it more RPG-like, I guess. Though instead of upgrading your stats, you're just like upgrading your, weapons and everything else.
True, yeah. No, I mean, there definitely could be more variety. I feel like even Metroid items in some ways have gotten stale. It doesn't feel like you get that many items in games, and a lot of them are repeated. I mean, at least with this game, they are trying to do some new things, but a lot of them are just psychic upgrades to existing items, but they do find cool new uses that make them psychic. Like I know you have the psychic boots, which are the space jump boots, but also let you stand on the psychic platforms. Well, that's cool. That's something you couldn't do until you get those. The psychic spider boost and the psychic spider rails are cool. I think those are really fun upgrades because I mean, with the boost rails, you get those little rails that'll just materialize as you go along them and just dash you to some part of the map. Those are fun. And even those little tether nodes that you do in some of the psychic spider puzzles, those are really fun and introduce some really fun sections of the game. I remember getting to Volt Forge, and I'm hearing that soundtrack, and I'm moving along these rails and using these tether nodes, and I was like, this feels like Metroid Prime. Like, this is Metroid for me.
Yeah, and Vault Forge is one of the coolest areas of the game, just design-wise, and the way that you interact and explore the different towers, and you can use Viola to go between the different areas. I really loved exploring things in this game. One thing that I saw that someone had pointed out online was the naming of the areas was a little too literal for what a Metroid game should feel like. Like, Flare Pool and Ice Belt. And I don't really have an issue with the names. I get it. But my favorite place in all of Metroid, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way, is Phendrana Drifts in Metroid Prime 1. And that is from the snowfall and the design and exploring of it, and the naming of it, like Phendrana Drifts is just such a cool name.
Yeah.
To go from that to Ice Belt, and it's just it's a little different, and but I love a game where you can look in the distance, see something, and realize you can go there. And I know Breath of the Wild has been memed to death on this concept, but Metroid Prime 4, when I got out into Soul Valley and I was looking around and I saw the mountain where Ice Belt is, and I was like, oh god, I hope I can go there. I really hope I can go there. I want to go there. And so I was really excited when I was able to get on the little tram and actually go and check out that area. I love ice and snow areas of games. I think I've talked about that on this podcast before. I really don't like winter in real life. I don't like the cold. I need sunny beaches as often as I can get them. But being in like a snowy or icy area in a video game, it's just the atmosphere is unbeatable for me in that, and I love exploring everything like that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, I love all the areas in the game. I mean, at least as far as like the design perspective goes. And I did think it was cool how, and this even kind of encourages you to like put away, to kind of immerse yourself in the world and put away the UI and stuff. But like the fact that like across the desert, like you can see all the major landmarks. You can see, the Great Tree and the volcano and the Ice Mountain and the Great Mines and Chrono Tower. You can see all those in the landscape, and you can go to them, and that's really cool. It's again, like you mentioned, like it's a trope at this point, but it is cool to see that included in a Metroid game. And I did also like how, instead of like the game has no waypoints, so instead of having to like look at your map and like look for a waypoint, instead it's like, no, if I want to go to to Fury Green, I'm going to look for the tree. If I want to go to the Flare Pool, I'm going to look for the volcano on the landscape and kind of just head there. And then the map is small enough that you can do that. That did feel like that was cool. One thing I wanted to talk about, since this is our spoiler review, and we can kind of get into it, and we both completed the game now, is the story. What were your thoughts on the plot and the characters?
The plot I am not as into, but I do like the characters. The plot, the biggest thing I can say about it is that it is somewhat forgettable. And I mean that literally, because there are big elements of the plot that I've already forgotten, and I finished the game not all that long ago. But it's I think it's one of the weakest in the series. We're accustomed to Samus either crashing on a planet and losing her powers and needing to find a way to escape and kind of get her upgrades in the process. This one, you were dealing with the lore of the people who were they were occupying this planet, and they wanted you to. That was the thing with the memory fruit, right? Like their civilization was sort of like the memories were in that seed, and they wanted you to go and be able to plant so they would have a chance to, live on and everything. Cool in concept. I don't think the story was necessarily executed well. That being said, didn't ruin my experience. It was fun, but there were definitely moments in this game when I'm exploring one of the big areas, and I was just like, what am I doing again? Why am I on this planet? What is happening? How does all of this tie together? That was something that I lost a little bit of focus on as I was going through it.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with you there. In fact, I mean, the plot is it's very bare bones. I mean, Samus's goal is literally just to escape the planet, but by doing so, she can at least let this extinct civilization live on through their memory. And there's a specific way to do that with the fruit and stuff. Yeah, it did, but it was kind of easy to kind of forget what you were doing and why and what Silex had to do with it, And in fact, some parts of it do feel very disjointed. Like, why was Silex here? Why, because he kind of just crash lands on the planet with you, but there's no, other than meeting him a couple times for a boss battle before you fight him at the end. I mean, there's really not any more of him throughout the plot. It's just kind of about this like Lamorne story. And I mean, the lore in that is interesting whenever you're going through the logs and stuff and finding out what happened to the civilization, them going through like a technologically advanced machine era and then developing psychic powers, realizing they depleted all the resources on their planet, which is why you have the big empty desert. So at least there's a thematic relevance with that. And then, harvesting this green energy to sort of revitalize the flora and fauna, but that ended up turning them into the grievers and stuff. And you got the Lamorne locked in the Chrono Tower and the prophecy of Samus, but she never comes. They all die out. It's interesting. But then it's like, but you're at the end of the day, all Samus is really trying to do is just go home. There's not like a plot where you're finding out. I did feel like, for instance, that's something that like Prime 2 Echoes did a little bit better, because it was almost kind of a similar setup in a lot of ways. I mean, pretty much almost the same story. Maybe that's why it didn't resonate so much, because it was like, we've done this before with the Luminoth. It's like almost the same thing, in fact. And then Silex is there, and I did think that what we got with Silex was cool. If you unlock the secret cutscene, which it doesn't give you and it doesn't telegraph, but you can find the secret cutscene if you got 100% in the gallery, which extends the Silex backstory cutscene and shows why he hates her. But it was just kind of like, what does this have to do with it? Where does it all tie together? Like, it was cool, but we get so very little of it, and there's not even any like Silex doesn't have any forces on the planet. There are no space pirates. It kind of feels like that was something that probably would have been included, but maybe they just didn't get to. I don't know. Like, it's just such a strange omission. Like, there's no space pirates anywhere except the intro of the game, and then they're gone, and then you fight Silex at the end, and that's a fun boss battle, but I kind of walked away from it feeling like, I don't know, I feel like it could have been more. I don't know. Maybe I'm just jaded, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. As much as I love this game, and I do love it, I wrote up my my top 10 games of 2025 for Tech Raptor the other day, and that is live now if anyone wants to go check that out. But it's Metroid Prime 4 was number 2 on that list, and not that they're necessarily in order, but it's absolutely high up there. I mean, top games of the year: Ghost of Yotei, Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends ZA. Like, I loved all of these experiences, and all of them are games that, sure, there is warranted criticism against each one, but for me, what I'm looking to get out of each of these experiences, the games are really excelling at, to the point where in Pokemon, I don't care that there are 2D balconies. Like, there's way more going on than for me to hyper focus in on that. And for Metroid Prime 4, yeah, the story could be a little bit more. But one thing I think they did do well, and this is definitely a controversial take, but I like the characters. I like the companions that you get. I think the companions, the writers did a good job of giving them distinct personalities and making it so that they were there the perfect amount of time Samus still had plenty of time to go off on her own, and she didn't have to babysit these characters the whole time. So that was really nice. I agree, Miles McKenzie talks a little too much when you're in Soul Valley and telling you where to go and what to do and giving you recommendations. Every time he spoke up, I just had the Ron Swanson meme from Parks and Rec of him in the department store going, I know more than you. It's, you know, how that felt. And, but the characters I thought were cool. Now, a lot of people either hate the ending, which I know Zach is in that camp, and he's not here to speak his piece of it, but I'll we'll give his side some time. And then there are people who like love it and got really emotional about it. I am staunchly in between. I didn't really get emotional by it. That's partially because a lot of people make assumptions, I think. And again, this is our spoiler episode. You have defeated Silex. You have the portal. Your companions hold him back to be able so that you can escape. Mm-hmm. And there is no option to choose anything else unless you choose nothing, in which case you die and the game ends. But you have to leave these companions behind, and the portal will transport you to wherever you are. It's not really clear where Samus gets transported to. It looks to be a pretty desolate world. And then she plants the memory fruit, starts to grow, and then the game just kind of ends. And there's a lot of ambiguity. I think it's very open-ended. A lot of people on the internet assume that your companions die when you leave and that they're all going to get killed. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that you're condemning them to death by that ending. But if you hated the companions, you feel one way or the other. But there are definitely some people who really liked these companions, who felt that, like through the power of friendship, we can accomplish anything. And then to just abandon them all in the end, I think that affected a lot of people, in different ways. And I get, having positive and negative feelings about how that ended altogether. I totally appreciate that from the different perspectives that everybody's having.
I think it's fair, but I'm like you. I did enjoy the companions. I did like them. Miles, I will protect with my life. I love my boy Mac.
He's such a good boy. Like, he just wants to help out, and he's got his science nerd stuff. Like, he's great.
And you meet Tokabi out in the desert a few times and get some of his backstory. And he's such a cool character that was a hunter, became a sniper for the Federation, just basically, defeat his family, and like, you get some backstory in this character. You get, the adoring fangirl of Samus. I can't remember her name at the moment.
Was that Nora Armstrong?
Armstrong, yeah.
Armstrong, yeah.
Yeah, she's fun. I mean, you don't get a whole lot of them, and they kind of do overdo the whole everybody sacrificing themselves to let Samus progress, because they do it in the Great Bides, and then they get to the Chrono Tower. But that's why that ending actually kind of did shock me, because I actually felt at this point that the companions were plot protected, that they had plot armor, but they don't. I mean, I think they do die. I don't think there's any other outcome of that situation where they don't die. I think the reactions on their faces indicate that they're fully prepared, but they all acknowledge that Samus needs to move on without them, because here's the thing: Samus has a greater mission than herself, and that's to protect the Lemorne civilization, number one. But number two, I mean, it's either nobody gets out and they all stay stranded, or at least somebody gets out. So, and you do see Samus hesitate to press the button, even when you press it. It's like her hand doesn't seem to want to do it, but it's like they all acknowledged and consented to it, and I think Samus realized in that moment. So I don't feel like it was a moment that went against her as a character, that contradicted who we've come to know. I think it's the only decision that was left. It's like, if Samus doesn't teleport out of there, then nobody gets out, and what was the point? So the best way to respect those characters, and their sacrifice would be to, I don't think she's abandoning them necessarily, but it was an emotional moment for me. I did like the ending. It did make me tear up, and that was good, because I didn't feel that way throughout the entire game. I didn't feel as emotionally invested in the plot for most of it. And then right at the end, I actually really did like what they were doing with the Silex stuff. I really did like what they were doing with the companions. I really felt like we could do more of that throughout the game, and that would have been better, because if you're going to have some dynamic plot stuff, which is, to be fair, somewhat atypical for Metroid, at least go full out on it. But yeah, no, I actually was a fan of the ending. But part of me was also disappointed by the final sequence too, because it's like, okay, they introduced this mech, and as soon as I saw mech parts, I thought that maybe I'd get to pilot a mech at some point. Like, why would you put a mech in a game and not let you pilot it? And you don't. And then Chrono Tower ends up not being like a gauntlet of enemies or anything. You just ride a couple elevators up and then the final battle. So I was like, it definitely felt like there are significant parts of this game that feel like Retro just didn't have enough time to do everything they wanted to do, which is so strange given how much time they did work on the game. I mean, even if we consider the point at which everything was rebooted, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, after they rebooted and took over, they had about 6 years to work on this thing. So it definitely had a long time to put into it. I like to think that this was a big learning experience, and maybe they had people on the team who had either never worked on a Metroid game before or were still, sort of in that mentor-mentee space and kind of figuring that out. I do think this creates a lot of promise for hopefully Metroid Prime 5. I hope we get it someday. And I think that if they were able to build ground up for the Switch 2 or whatever future console we have, they could build on this. Like this is a base. There's a lot of great stuff in this base. They've got a really good recipe for a really amazing game here. And I personally loved it, and I do want to replay it eventually. Probably not going to be anytime soon. There are little quality of life things that I would like to see included. I would appreciate if they made it so that you don't have to worry about missing scans to get 100%, because I was going to go through and 100% this before I went to the final boss. So I looked up what I had left, and the first thing was like, oh yeah, Space Pirate, beginning of the game. If you miss that, you never get him again. And I was like,
yeah,
okay.
That's a complaint I've had since Metroid Prime 1. I don't like that there are missable scans. I don't like that, like, there's like, okay, and in Prime 1, there are specific war wasps that appear in one boss room and nowhere else. And there's no indication that these war wasps are different than the others. They look the same to me. I didn't think I needed to scan them. So I don't know why they insist on doing missable scans. I mean, it's one thing when you're on the Space Pirate frigate and you know you're not coming back there. It's another thing when you have a specific type of enemy that only shows up in one boss room. Like, come on.
Exactly, and the fact that the different enemies, if they change form, scanning multiple forms, sometimes a piece of them will get blasted off, and you have to scan that piece after it's been attached. Like, it's a lot. The scanning in this game definitely got a little tedious, and that is a negative that I will say. It takes longer. I think Zach said it's like 4 seconds or something per scan, and you're scanning constantly. And that, would have been a cool upgrade. I would have been excited to get. If you could improve your scanner to have the time it takes to scan, that would have been awesome. I would have been really excited to see that.
Because we got other upgrades that were added through, like the green crystals, for instance. Like the green energy crystals give like increase your damage and things like that. It's kind of surprising that scan. At least an upgrade to the psychic visor to scan faster wasn't included, because like I said, or even honestly at this point I think they could just patch it in, just make it a little bit faster. Let's have the scans run about the same as they did in previous games, because I think you're right. It's like in previous Metroid Prime games, I know mileage will vary, but in previous Metroid Prime games, like I was always into scanning everything. I mean, that's kind of part of the way I play these games, and I don't mind doing it. It not excessively, but it did start to feel that a little too tedious for me because of the length of the time that it scanned, and maybe that not every single scan, revealed as much information as I want. I mean, definitely as soon as when you go into like a new world, like at the second you get into Fury Green and there's a bunch of different creatures, like so many different creatures that are around, some that aren't even enemies, that you get all this lore about. That's cool. I like that. Give me more of that. But there were other parts of the game that felt a little bit more bare, and it felt like I was scanning, like 4 different computer screens that basically all said the same thing, but they were different scans,
Yeah, and scanning was so integral that there was the part in Ice Belt as you are unlocking the doors and getting all the different like IDs and things together. You have to scan to see that something can be, manipulated, or you have to melt something, or it gives you additional information, but it's like you're unable to progress that quest unless you are going through and just scanning every single little thing. Definitely not something that I mind, and I agree. It would be cool if they were to patch this game and make that just a little bit faster, or give you the option to be able to sort of customize, what you want to do. I would also love to see if they could add an option where anything that you have not scanned yet would show a different color, and they do that to an extent, but it sort of resets like room by room, I noticed. And I would scan things and it would just be, the same thing that I had scanned over and over again.
Yeah.
So color coding it a little bit more cleanly would make that, like, I would not feel the need to scan everything if I had that ability to be like, oh, okay, here's an enemy I've seen, 1,000 times. I don't need to scan this one.
I had the same complaint about the color coding, and which is funny. It's kind of mind-boggling because they actually figured this out perfectly by the time we got to Prime 2 and 3, which both have green is for already scanned, blue is for non-essential scans that you haven't scanned yet. But green means you already have, and then red for critical scans. This game does have 3 different colors. It has yellow for critical scans. It has green for scans that are optional, but you haven't scanned yet. And everything else is just kind of this muted gray that's really not that different from the green. Not to mention the fact that like so many objects in this game are green, so green being the non-scanned object color is just strange to me, especially because it used to be the scanned object color for 2 games. So the color coding could be tweaked a little bit. Yeah, I know like green is kind of like one of the central themes of this game, but like so is purple. That's also one of the motifs. So it's like you could have worked that in there somewhere. Like I would have had like purple be like the unscanned object color and green being the scanned object color like in previous games. And then, red or yellow for critical. Like, I don't know. I don't know why they needed to fix it or that they needed to change that. It feels like a little bit of a downgrade there, especially, and like I said, I mean, there are certain things that, sometimes like you would scan something and all the other monitors would show up as scanned and you're like, okay, these are all the same thing. But then other times like you'd come across like another monitor that was basically the same information and it did require a separate scan. And it was like, okay, really? So, and I even felt like, even some of the scans that you did get besides the lore entries were just not as interesting as they were in previous games. I don't know. I just felt like I was getting more about the world. Even the lore entries just didn't intrigue me as much for some reason. And that was kind of sad because, that's kind of what I look for.
Yeah, the lore was not as interesting in this game as the previous ones. That was something that I think going hand in hand with the story not being as engaging, the lore just didn't bring you in as well as like learning about the Chozo in Metroid Prime 1. Like I feel like there was a lot more to experience and discover in those previous titles.
Yeah. But I know that we keep talking about things that we kind of disliked, and it's almost inevitable because these are games that I grew up with and hold in high regard. But I don't want to take away from the fact that I do think this is a good game. I do think some of the hate is a little bit overblown. I've heard people calling this worse than Other M, and I was like, no, Other M is objectively a bad game. I used to defend it. I replayed it a few years ago. Now it's objectively a bad game. This is not a bad game. It is a good game. In fact, I think it's actually, not a bad entry point into the franchise. I think we mentioned that in part 1, but I feel like somebody who's not attached to previous Metroid games might actually be a little bit less disappointed by some of these things. And if you're looking for like a solid action adventure experience that lasts around the 20 to 30 hour ballpark, I think this will deliver and will keep you busy for a little bit of time. And there's even a little bit of replay value. Mileage will vary on that, but playing through the game on hard and like getting all of those like extra scans or maybe actually getting all of those green crystals, to unlock everything. There's quite a bit of content to be had.
And the fact that it's on Switch 2 and on Nintendo Switch 1 for that matter, but this is an incredibly beautiful, well-designed, well-done game that you can bring with you on the go. Different vary between performance and quality modes. You can start up a new file anytime you want. Like, this is the perfect game if you're going on a long road trip or a long flight and you want to have something to just be fully like immersed in as you go, or for however long your battery will last, or you can find a plug in between the seats or something on the airplane. But there's a lot of cool stuff in here. I get why hardcore Metroid fans don't necessarily love this game, because it does break a little bit of the formula off from those Metroidvanias that we're used to, but there's still a lot to really enjoy here. This is a great game for me. This is one of my top games of the year. It's one that I had so much fun playing. I would think about playing it when I wasn't playing it. I would be excited to like take my lunch breaks and work and pull my Switch out and be able to, just go through it a little bit more. Taking notes on where all of the different upgrades was a lot of fun for me. They added some cool functionality where you could, notate on the map and add icons and stuff. My problem is that there were not enough icons and it was not robust enough to be helpful for me, because I don't just want to know that there's a missile upgrade in a room. I want to know what ability I need to get that missile upgrade. And so that's where my spreadsheet would come in handy, and I would note all of those things down. And you know what? When I go on my second playthrough, I have that sheet fully filled out now, and it's going to make it way easier to just go through and check stuff off, and I won't have to be referring to a guide, every 2 seconds, or, someday a future AI companion that will just take over my controller and play the game for me. We'll see where the future of the Metroid franchise goes.
Yeah. See, that's something they could have done. I just thought about it, but Metroid's scan system pretty much provides the framework, and the Arkham games did something kind of similar. But what if, like, every time you scanned an item, it just added it to your map, and that would reward players who go around to scan everything?
Yeah.
I mean, that would honestly be the ideal way to do it, is to where you have to, and it would update your map with the item, its exact location, and what you need to progress. Like, I know, like, whenever you come across doors, it shows you what item you need to take the blast shield off the door. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, they could have done that with the items. I don't know. There's some things they could have done better, but I mean, at least in regards to the map thing, I mean, and the items, there is kind of an answer to that. It comes late game, but it's the scout bots. And that's why this is a game where it's kind of best to save all your backtracking until you have to go back to an area, or until you get to the end game, so that you can go back with all the abilities you have and unlock everything. Because once you get the Thunder Shot, you can activate the scout bots in every area, and they'll show you the precise location of every item. And that was what was necessary for me. But yeah, as for my final thoughts, I'll consider what you said, kind of your final thoughts. I mean, I think that this is a fun game. It's not the game I waited 18 years for, which is disappointing. But as I mentioned before, it is a solid experience. It's a good game. It's very polished. In fact, there are so many parts of it that are really, really high for me, that brought back my childhood. I remember playing this on release night, and my first impression with the game after playing through, at least like up to like the Volt Forge area, was that it brought me back to my childhood and made me feel like I was playing Metroid again. It's such a short experience. I don't feel like there's enough of it. And it feels kind of disjointed, because then it takes you in a completely different direction with the desert stuff, and it just doesn't dig deep enough into that to make that as interesting as it could have been. But then there are so many parts of it that were like, nah, this is fucking awesome. I love combing through the desert on the bike and listening to the radio, So it's like, for me, it's like, this is a good thing. I just wish there was more of it and they dug a little bit deeper. But for what it's worth, I mean, I'm so happy that we have a Metroid Prime game to play in 2025 and 2026. I mean, how fucking awesome is that? And if anything, I want to encourage people to check this out, to try it, so that it convinces Nintendo and Retro Studios to make more of these, because I think this franchise does have a future. Let's look and see what they can do with a title that is developed exclusively for Switch 2, that takes full advantage of the hardware, and with conventions of modern game design and some other things. I think they could learn from other franchises too, and make this even more, because it's like I said before, when I see what other studios are doing with some of their games and how intricate those are, that's where I look at something like this and I feel like I could have gotten more. But for what it's worth, I mean, fuck yeah, I would recommend this to anybody who's a fan of the Metroid Prime games for sure. You should check it out. You should complete this game. And I mean, complete it. Do everything there is to do. I mean, you don't have to get every single green crystal thing, or if you don't want to play through the game to get all the missable scans, that's fair. But I mean, yeah, go ahead and seek out all the items and scan everything you can and try to, at least get the true ending or whatever. And I would also recommend this, as I mentioned before, to newcomers. I think this is a good starting point, because it can only get better than this, to be honest with you. So you can check out Metroid Prime 4 and then go back and play Metroid Prime Remastered and kind of see what that's all about, because it's a very different type of Metroid Prime game, while still, remaining true to the core principles. But
And it's a great introductory. I mean, if you're not familiar with Metroid Prime games, this kind of eases you into it.
Yeah.
And even me, like, I have a pretty long history with Metroid at this point. I haven't played all the games, but I've thoroughly enjoyed the ones I have. I feel ready and excited to go back to Metroid Prime Remastered. I was playing through that when it came out and just got to a point where I got kind of stuck, and it's tough for me because getting lost in a Metroid Prime game, it's like guides are only so helpful because you have to kind of pinpoint exactly where in the game you are, and that's always a little challenging for me as far as like what my next objective is, and how many of the like artifacts you've retrieved or anything like that. But some of the skills that I've picked up in Metroid Prime 4 and things I've learned and just ways that I know how to play these games a little differently now, I really want to start a new file and go through and complete Metroid Prime Remastered again. So that's definitely something that I think I'll tackle later this year. And Metroid Dread as well. I've been meaning to replay that. I did start a new file in like October and played a little bit. But again, now that I have kind of a strategy in mind as far as like getting power-ups and, noting the map and everything, I want to take that knowledge and pass it forward to those other games. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, this game is a little bit hand-holdy, so it kind of does work as a first experience too. But yeah, I definitely do recommend this again to fans of Metroid Prime games, Metroidvanias, or just action-adventure games. And yeah, I think for what it's worth, I mean, it is an enjoyable experience. I really don't get hating this game or thinking it's a bad game. It could have been more, but it does so much right in it. It again, I mean, I was happy. I was really, really happy to play this, and I had a good time with it. But yeah, that'll conclude our episode on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. If you'd also like to check me out playing this game, I have uploaded 3 Let's Plays to YouTube for Metroid Monday and Shooter Saturday. So you can go check those out on the Collateral Gaming and Collateral Cinema YouTube channels as well. And we'll have we've got some more content to come out. But before I get into that, Dan, why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners where they can find your work on Tech Raptor and what you've got coming up with that, and Victims and Villains as well.
Absolutely. If you want to check me out over at techraptor.net, you can follow along with anything that I write and upload, as well as all the other talented writers that we got over there. There's a lot of really cool work being done. We just published today, as we're recording, a lot of our staff's top picks of the year. So you can see my top 10 games. You can see everyone else's, top games. And it's cool seeing the diversity that is there. I definitely leaned more into the AAA space this year, although some games like Blueprints made my list because I absolutely loved playing that.
That game was great.
So it's so much fun. And there's if you're looking for some recommendations, if you're looking for some new stuff to play, check out those lists. There's a lot of really cool stuff on there. And I will be writing and publishing more. It's a couple months away, but I'll be attending PAX East again this year in Boston. So I will be, doing some more work and everything. And hey, if you're going to be in the Northeast and coming to PAX East, hit me up and say hi, because it'd be fun to see some friends while I'm out there.
Fuck yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Definitely. And you mentioned Victims and Villains as well. Definitely check out what they're going on over there. I need to meet up with those guys and get some recordings and some stuff going, because I have not been I haven't participated over there in a little while, and I'm missing it. I'm missing talking movies and good stuff with my friends and promoting mental health. So I got to get over there, but definitely check out Victims and Villains, see everything that's going on, and yeah, support those guys over there because they're doing some really good stuff.
Fucking A, man. Yeah, and unfortunately, we missed doing our annual holiday recording with Victims and Villains this year. It just didn't work out due to scheduling conflicts and personal stuff, I think. But they were going to be on our Silent Night, Deadly Night episode, and we were going to do an episode with them. But yeah, we definitely worked a lot with them over the years, and definitely recommend going checking out our friends at Victims and Villains, and also Dan's work on Tech Raptor. While we were recording this, you mentioned your top 10 list, and I was like, oh, you have that uploaded already, because you mentioned you were going to write one before. So I was looking that up while we were recording here and then going through your top 10 list. So yeah, that
very nice.
I definitely agree with a lot of your picks.
Yeah, there are a lot of good games this year, and there were a couple from previous years that I added, Marvel's Midnight Suns and Alan Wake 2, because I'm heavily playing them this year, so I wanted to make sure we got those in. But yeah, this was a really good year for games. For me anyways, a lot of cool stuff came out that I'm excited for. 2026, I think, has the possibility to be even better. So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming out this year, including things that have not been announced yet. I'm convinced that some of my favorite games of the year are going to be announced like either in the winter or the spring for a summer or fall release. So we'll see what the big studios have coming up. We'll see what's going on in the indie space, but there are sure to be a lot of really cool games this year as well.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, and as for, the games of the year, like you mentioned, Dan, so many heavy hitters, so many bangers, both in the indie and the big budget spaces, and we have a lot to talk about. I want to do a year in review episode here very soon. So hopefully sometime in January we'll get together and do that and see if we can get all of us, you, me, Zach, and Megan, and even Bo, see if he played anything this year, and just kind of dish it out some of the games that each of us played. And anything that we worked on. I mean, you obviously have a list of games here to talk about, and some that I'll be happy to talk about with you that we just didn't get a chance to talk about on the podcast, either as a game launch episode or otherwise. So that's going to be fun. We'll also kind of have our own little game awards like we did last year, where we'll each reveal our personal game of the year, Expedition 33.
Cool. And that game is noticeably missing from my list on Tech Raptor, which I've already been called out for.
Oh, no, I bet.
Look, I like that game. It did a lot of great stuff. I'm really impressed with the team over there. They swept the Game Awards. It's one of the most critically acclaimed games of the year. I did not feel I needed to talk about it or write about it. It did not need me to cast a light on it. Then, of course, you look at the list and you're like, oh, like Pokemon Ghost of Yote, like those games deserve it, though. It's like, okay, look, it's my list. It's my picks. I got to decide. But yeah, Expedition 33, great game, super fun. They didn't need me to take the time to write about it. There are plenty of other people doing that, so I allowed myself a little break from that.
That's absolutely fair, and we're going to be glazing it later this season, actually, for our season finale, because Zach and I, in particular, just absolutely fell in love with it. And I know it doesn't need the extra attention, but god damn it, I need to talk more about it. But yeah, we're gonna have so many games to talk about that came out this year. Like I mentioned, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Blueprints. That's something we'll definitely get to talk about together. This was a great fucking year for gaming.
So good.
And we talked about quite a bit of that on the Switch 2 episode too. So that's not even including all of that. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Also, stay tuned for our post-holiday edition of Collateral Gaming Bonus Round. We'll have that out very soon. Probably go ahead and record that this weekend. And then that'll be on the Angry Video Game Nerd 8-bit game. I did get to play that. It's a game that actually was released for NES, interestingly enough. But I played it on Switch too, and it's a fun little 8-bit game. Hard as fuck. And so we'll talk about that. Also, this month, our planned content is going to be Ark Survival Evolved. Or I'm actually, the version I'm playing is Ark Survival Ascended, but that's just the remaster. I played a little bit of the game the other day, and I like it. It just definitely feels like a juiced up Minecraft with dinosaurs, and I'm digging it.
Sounds awesome.
But that was Megan's pick, so we'll have a 2-part episode on that that we'll hopefully have out by the end of January. And we've got so much more to come in the future. Over on Collateral Cinema, we'll also have a year-in review episode, our post-holiday edition of Collateral Cinema Director's Cut on Adult Swim holiday specials, specifically Smiling Friends and YOLO. We'll also have out, we've already recorded actually our first Anime Month episode, which was Vampire Hunter D. We did that with the folks over at the guys over at the Retro Anime Podcast. So stay tuned for that very soon. And then we're also doing an episode on Boruto Naruto the movie, which was my pick. And I know that there's going to be some discourse on that because people hate Boruto, but all that hate actually started happening when the anime came out. The series came out with its subpar animation and excessive amount of filler. 2 issues that are non-existent in the anime film. But we'll talk about that on that episode.
Well, that'll be good. And just a shout out to you, Ash, because I know we were talking the other night, and you don't typically, listen back to your episodes, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I was I was looking through the other day, and I was like, you know what? I want to sit down. I want to listen. I want to hear some good stuff. And you and Bo had done an episode in October on the original Resident Evil, and I was like, oh man, that sounds really cool. So I tuned in and listened. I was getting ready for bed. I like to listen to either audiobooks or podcasts when I'm kind of going to sleep, and so it was just nice. It felt cozy. I was like, oh, here's 2 of my friends talking about one of my favorite games. I'm just gonna fall asleep to them, just talking to me about games. This is great. So if anyone out there wants a nice relaxing podcast, as you kind of get ready for bed, check out Collateral Gaming. Keep listening to the show you're already listening to. Maybe you're already in bed. Maybe you're on a boat. I don't know. But hopefully it's you're doing something cool, relaxing, whatever. But yeah, just wanted to shout you out, Ash, because I know I'm on these episodes. I love coming on here, but getting to listen to the episodes that I don't guest on, that is a joy as well. And it's always fun to see the new episodes. And I love when, hearing when Zach and Megan come on and hearing all you guys, your different points of view and opinions and everything. It's always a lot of fun.
Well, fuck yeah. Thanks, bro. Aw, shucks. I remember you told me that the other night that you were going to put it on. I was like, hell yeah, I'd love to hear what you think. Because like I said, I don't listen back to them. So I honestly don't even know how good these are. Or I listen to these when I'm editing them. But I'm like, I try not to be overly critical. But yeah, I do thank you to everyone who is listening and continues to listen to our episodes. We're doing pretty well in terms of downloads. I think we're between both podcasts either already or about to cross that 40,000 threshold between both Collateral Cinema and Gaming. So
nice.
We really, really appreciate that. And if you want to support the show, we do have a merch store on Dashery. We have a Patreon where you can get exclusive content. We do have a Buy Me a Coffee as well. You can also help us rise up the ranks on Good Pods. You can leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or feedback on your platform of choice. You can find Collateral Gaming wherever you get your podcasts, along with Collateral Cinema. And we also do have a social media presence over on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I guess that's just about it for now.
Cool. Sounds great. I'm gonna go and we'll probably play some more Pokemon, but I'll have to jump back into Metroid Prime 4 at some point and get another playthrough in, because I just really love this game.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, with all that being said, I've been da 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 Ashley Chancellor.
And I've been Dan Rockwood.
This was Collateral Gaming. We are out.
Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.